Welcome back to First Issues. The global economy could lose more than 21 trillion US dollars this year, according to new data from a research undertaking by the Australian National University. This undertaking was led by Professor Warwick McKibben and Roshan Fernando, who modeled several scenarios of the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the world economy, ranging from containing the virus in mid-2020 to ongoing waves of the virus over several years. This figure is not surprising, as more and more corporates are facing dire straits, while some have actually exited the market. Airlines have collapsed, international tourism is almost non-existent, sport is suffering, while some countries such as the United States of America and South Africa are now faced with escalating unemployment rates. This is our new reality, and these are the times that we live in. While times have been very difficult for many, there are people who still believe there's still an opportunity to look for new frontiers and models of coping. Our guest, Martin Mossler, who joins us from Austria, says amid the chaos, optimism and positive drive are the only countermeasures to the challenges we are faced with during this time. Martin is General Manager at the European Space Agency Business Incubation Centers, Austria. Martin, thank you so much for joining us here on First Issues. You recently gave a presentation on new reality and new opportunities. Perhaps for the benefit of our viewers who may not have had the opportunity to be a part of that presentation, maybe give us a thrust of what it was about.
Well, basically, the presentation I gave, which you've just related and referred to, was trying to acknowledge the currently challenging situation which the globe faces in relation to the virological dimension, but also give it a certain optimistic spin, given that the challenges as the one we are currently going through also generate opportunities for startups, for established companies as well, but that the agility which a startup and which small companies have is going to be of critical competitive advantage in order to survive this first of all, and to potentially even generate something good out of it. This is not the classic approach of, every crisis has something good in it, because I'm not this kind of optimist.
Okay.
There is just critical situations which one should avoid, and one shouldn't try to talk nice, but still there is elements within our, given that the biggest challenges when it comes to this COVID-19 situation in Europe and in the world is associated with the most precarious living conditions. This applies to Europe, this applies to Africa, to the Americas, as well as to Asia, that the virus is starting because of very, very dire and sensitive living conditions, and as a consequence it kind of gets into every corner of society, and it shows that even those who are very well off and wealthy are hit by the conditions which we've created, insofar as a chain is only as strong as its weakest part, and we step by step need to acknowledge that no matter whether we treat, no matter how much profit we want to make, it's a very tiny little system such as a virus which can actually bring us on our knees, no matter how wealthy or how well established we are.
Martin, you were quoted at a different forum as saying that the flexibility to change course and keep momentum is the basics for startups. Please unpack this for us.
Well, basically what determines and coins startups And their potential success is that they, while classic industry is focusing on two elements, quality and that's what always determines the considerations, quality and price. Startups are different. Small companies, SMEs, are similar, but not really the same as startups. So basically, while industry is focusing on price and quality, startups need to focus on one critical thing, which is speed, because the time to market determines more or less everything in this business. It is also what not mastering this time to market well is also the main reason why a lot of startups fail, apart from the team component, which is, by the way, also very important.
How can a conducive environment for startups to not fear changing course and keeping the momentum be created?
Well, basically, startup ecosystems, this is a huge discussion all around the globe. What coins a successful startup ecosystem? In my opinion, a lot of this talk is actually not so well informed, because what a startup ecosystem looks like is, what a good startup ecosystem looks like is very similar to what a successful economic surrounding looks like as well, which is basically scientific and educational institutions, which means infrastructure, roads, ports, airports. It also, of course, then kind of trickles down into IP protection infrastructure, etc. But the most important, the most critical elements in my startup ecosystem perception, and I think it's not a wrong one. It's not one which you hear all the time, because there's a lot of magic being kicked into this word. But I think it's educational facilities, access to education, access to transport, access to infrastructure of all forms and sorts and forms. That's what drives innovation. That's what drives economic development, and the two tend to go together pretty well. There is something to be added at that stage, which is also important, which is, of course, that this applies. I'm not sure whether you can expand this to Africa, to the African continent. I think yes, but especially in times of kind of challenging economic conditions, unemployment being high, conditions such as the ones we are currently facing and will continue to face, startup ecosystems and startup innovations tend to flourish faster. It's almost cynical, but when people tend to get out of their comfort zone, because it's not that I appreciate this, I'm just observing. When people tend to push out of their comfort zone, they sometimes do the stuff which they always wanted but did not dare to. But when you're out of employment, what can you lose? And as a consequence, it sounds cynical, and I don't mean it cynical in any sense, because I have full sympathy for those who are fighting with health conditions or with economic conditions. But we will probably see a boost of innovative and dynamic startups all around the globe in the next months and years to come.
This program was brought to you in association with First National Bank of Botswana.
FNB, how can we help you?